Hey everyone, Kim here, Abundant Life Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me for another Mystery Mystic video. We are discussing Jack and Lilly Sullivan. They have been missing now officially for a full month. I am recording this video as of Monday, June 2nd, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. And I always say, I don't like to come back to the reading table or come back to looking at the cards unless something transpired or something piques my intuitive reactions, if you will, that gut feeling. And that happened this past weekend or even past week, right? We've heard some things in the past several days. Namely, we heard about the timeline, or at least law enforcement wanting RCMP, wanting dash cam footage, additional surveillance footage that goes back to April 28th, 2025. However, the kids were confirmed to be seen with quote unquote family members. And then Daniel, the stepdad, volunteered later and said it was him and mom and the kids all together. They're the family members, but the news reports were saying family members. There was a sighting of them in New Glasgow, okay, on May 1st, which is interesting. So the kids alive and well as of Thursday, let's just say afternoon, right? So we found that out, that law enforcement is wanting folks to look at that. Even before that, they were saying, please go back and look at your trail cams and report back any findings. I mean, it's a little disconcerting about that, only because, film records over, the recording devices sometimes could lose the footage if you don't get it right away. Time is of the essence when you're dealing with video evidence. You've got to preserve it. So I almost feel like this is from law enforcement performative. And I don't know if that's the best word to describe it, because I can't imagine them missing that. You know what I'm saying? I just can't. I feel like it's strategic, but we're going to do a reading on that. Don't you worry, friends. We're going to do a reading on that and find out one way or the other. So the other things that went on this past week, well, a search for over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, was done. And they said, the searchers wanted to go back out because of this boot impression, a child's boot impression, footprint near the pipeline corridor, which is a good ways away from the family home. And they wanted to go search. Again, that feels like that's being fed to us. We've got here Anger in Chains and Masquerade card that I'm looking at now. I'm showing you on the screen. And there's a few people wearing a mask in this situation. And we've got to be very discerning about what we are seeing and hearing anytime with anything these days, especially with the advent of AI and whatnot. But with people, namely those who are related to this case. So the last thing I want to talk about, and before we move on to that, is the search didn't find, their kids are still missing, and it was reported that there was no meaningful evidence was found. Okay. All right. The last thing is Daniel allegedly did an interview with a channel called It's a Crying Shame, a Canadian YouTube content creator. And oh boy, if these messages are true, and again, we know that things can be fabricated, can be made up, especially when people don't relay how they verified if they're talking to said person, right? Did you see their ID? I've heard of YouTube content creators, true crime creators, actually asking for it and seeing a form of ID or some form of evidence that they're talking to the real person. They'll have a Zoom call and before the interview happens, we have no clue if these are valid. So we're going to take it with a grain of salt. But I want to hear from you. Do you think these messages are real? I tend to think these messages are real, and here's why. There's some things that he said in the Facebook messaging, which that was also kind of odd about this interview. It's that it was through Facebook Messenger with the co-host over a 6-hour period, which I guess is fine. That's perhaps how the stepdad felt comfortable. Let me stop calling him stepdad too. Let's just call him his name, Daniel. So I could understand him not being comfortable doing a full-on interview, I guess. But to me, it didn't seem wise, because people then can infer a lot more through, these messages versus you clarifying right then and there if something needed to be clarified. But these messages felt like some things he had said to news reporters, and it has a ring of truth to me. I feel like this is Daniel. And when I watched the video on It's a Crying Shame the night that it came out, now it's private, the video's not up. But when I watched it that night, I was like, oh, this is going to come down. My intuition was like, this video is going to have to go away. And then I started thinking about, is this strategic? And if you know, you know. Because sometimes there are plants amongst content creators. I'm not saying this about this particular content creator. Sometimes they're unsuspecting. They don't even realize what they're doing, and then they end up helping law enforcement to advance their investigation, allegedly. Sometimes it is, a collaboration, if you will. I'm not saying it's neither here nor there, but it's just interesting to me. Everything, the timing. Oh, and before we get into these messages, the other thing, this whole running off with the news, and it just makes my blood boil when I see people use in their thumbnails, he passed the polygraph. No, he said that it was favorable. And here's the thing, we're going to talk about that polygraph in a moment. Okay, we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to invite you all to do your own research if you don't believe what I'm about to show you, just from a Google search. But, it's just interesting how the truth can be twisted. Even though we saw him say, and we read in black and white, that he didn't say he passed or failed, nor does it indicate anywhere that law enforcement will just say, oh, you passed or failed. They're allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to lie and say whether you passed or failed. So you got to even take that with a grain of salt. But we'll get into that in a moment. All right, so here's some of the messages I was able to grab. And now I can't find the video, now I can't grab any more. But here's what we've got. So it says here, and the part is kind of cut off. It says, but 5 minutes alone with her mother. That would be mom, Malaya. But 5 minutes alone with her mother after the first search briefing, Malaya completely changed. She couldn't even look at me. An hour before this, Malaya told RCMP she felt happiest and safest with me. It was a different Malaya. Okay, let's go to the next one I was able to get. Lily and Jack called me dad and came for me for everything. Never Malaya! Exclamation point. Exclamation point. She had no control over the kids. They were wild with her, and with me listened and were well behaved. More exclamation points. I promised myself I'd always be there for Malaya and the kids, and I'm holding that promise. Oh, how noble. Then the next one. I'm not being negative towards Malaya. I love her. But I never lie because that's just not me. I say the truth, even if it hurts. I'm sorry to say that, but I live in reality, and reality is what it is. I don't believe that because I became good friends with reporters from Global CTV and CBC, they tell me they kick them out of the yard, and she tells them no, media or questions must be asked through the lawyer. Smart woman. You can learn a thing or two, Daniel. Here's the thing. I'm going to pause here for a moment. I will never, ever hold it against somebody if they lawyer up quick or if they lawyer up at all. I'm from the U.S. For me, I don't care. The same thing if somebody says, I do not want to take a problematic polygraph test. I don't want to do that. I won't hold that against them. I find it so peculiar that people are taking issue with her having a lawyer. She needs a lawyer. He needs one. Allegedly. Okay, let's carry on. All right, so then the next one says so Malia is not doing media. They have a lawyer that the chief's brother from the reserve she belongs to. Lily and Jack were granted as soon as the disappearance happened, but we were denied multiple times in the past. Meadow was not granted status. Okay. All right. I wasn't able to get the last message there, but let's stop there for a moment. We know that Malia she is indigenous, and so she is now at they say here, the reservation, I suppose. That's what we call in the United States. And she has assistance sounds like support from family, from the chief, from, council. And I also understand, if we're to take this as truth, it's not verified. It is literally all hearsay. And I guess there was some kind of dispute about, the kids were denied status 3 different times. It sounds to me like the bloodline would be something that would be, contentious. Like if she's mixed to a certain percentage than her kids are, maybe they, have some sort of threshold. That's neither here nor there. It is good that she has an attorney. Okay? It just is. And he should get one too. That's all I'm going to say. The next one I was able to grab, it skips, so I'm sorry about that. I was able to get what I could get. It says here, my mom was napping and came outside because she heard me yelling that morning for the kids. Malaya was playing on her phone. Mom came out and she said Malaya had a look of worry in her eyes that mom was home. That's interesting. No tears. She wasn't scared the kids were gone. Just a look of worry she got caught for something wrong. What? See, this is when it would have been nice to have him being interviewed, even if he doesn't show his face, just his voice. Because I'd be like, well, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? Elaborate. Take us through that. I'm not following that. And now because of that, it feels like he's deflecting from himself and his mother, which that's totally fine. He could totally do that. They could totally not be in the wrong. The kids could have totally wandered off or was abducted, all the things, right? Fine. But you threw Malaya under the bus. And this is some kind of inference. Just a look of worry she got caught for something wrong. What kind of mess is that? What kind of environment was going on for your mama, according to you, to say something like that? Now, either you're saying that and saying just a look of worry she got caught for something wrong. Is that your feeling about it, or is that your mom's? Either way, that's highly problematic. I'll just say that. So then the next one I have, so then the co-host says, okay, wow, that would have been terrifying had they ever left the yard alone before. Great question. Because I have questions like that. What kind of security systems do you have in place? You know, what kind of security systems do you have in place there? Have they eloped before? I know that Malaya mentioned that the kids may be on the spectrum. Can you take us through what it's like? What's a normal school week like for you all? Give us an idea of, the kids. Are they adventurous? Do they typically stay close to home? What's going on here? So then he goes on to say, no, only with me, because Malaya rarely ever went outside with them. Okay. And then this last one, y'all. And this is the one that we're going to really dive into. So bear with me. I don't know if I'll do it in this video. And I'm going to say this right here, right now. If this turns out to be false, like this is not Daniel, I will take this video down. Because I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to believe somebody would be this. I don't know. I don't want to even call names. But if it's not real, I'm going to take this video down. But if it's real, like, whoa. Well, he says, this is the last screenshot I caught, and I'm so glad I did. It says, I love her more than anything. That will never change. I'm waiting for that chance to relive our first date over waterfalls and a walk on Big Island Beach with the Daniel you first met. She will know what that means. Oh, really? And so at first, I think a lot of people took this as this is a romantic overture to her, to let her know that he's in her corner. He has her back, even though he says some things that be like, whoa, you don't have her back, sir. Okay, that's fine, whatever, but you don't. So then she will know what that means. Oh yeah, she knows what that means. You're trying to instill fear. Waterfalls. I got a waterfalls card in I think it was part 2 on May 6th, the opening oracle reading I did. We'll look at that in a moment. I just wanted to lay down this foundation with you, all of these messages, and update us to where we're at today. June 2nd, 2025. And yeah, a lot has happened. Wow. So I got the waterfalls card, right? This was in part 2. I zoomed in. There was other cards, but I wanted to really zoom in on this because, hey, he said it in his text message, allegedly, if it's him. We've got river and creek. This body of water is interesting, the way it's shaped. It is a river or creek, but the way it's shaped looks interesting as it relates to Big Island. I forgot what he called it. We'll look at that in a moment. I did a map. So, but waterfalls. Then we have the kilometers, 35 to 60 kilometers above the waterfalls card. Below that, we have 15 to 35 kilometers. But I wonder if that's something to do with New Glasgow or just the distance in between Lansdowne and New Glasgow. I don't know yet. I'll be honest, I don't. I just know that I feel like the kids aren't where these people are looking. Because when I got that outside card, if you've been following this series I've been doing for, this mini series on the kids' disappearance, you saw that I got the outside card, and I instantly was like, they're out. It's outside of range. They're not where they're searching. This is not. They ain't it. That's not where they're at. But let me show you something. Big Island Beach in Pictou County. And the distance to Lansdowne Station. It's a 45-minute drive, 62.8 kilometers via this shore road. Or maybe there's a shorter distance, a longer distance, a more scenic distance. I don't know. But this is what I grabbed from Google. And when I actually looked at pictures, I'm going to save time and not show you. But when I looked at them, like the actual terrain, it looked like that card, that Creek River card. And I thought that was so interesting. That's so interesting to me. And so then I circle back to him saying, you will know what that means. She'll know what that means. Oh, I bet she does. I want to take you all now over here. Back to the beginning, part 1. First 2 decks I used on this case. And we got some things here. I'm not going to go into all of them, but the Broom card is telling me this is a domestic issue. The Crow was saying there's some criminality to this situation. Somebody was moving someone or something from place to place. The Mushroom is a growing problem, a growing bad problem, as we got 2 different bad omen cards in the Crow and the Umbrella card. And then something made the hairs on my neck rise up. My goosebumps go up last night. I looked at the Trumpet, Bell, and Orbiculum cards. You know how he said it was like when she talked to her mom and then like 5 minutes later she's different? I feel like these folks are highly spiritually connected, and sudden insights or sudden knowings, or just like this is a clarion call, a prophetic vision. You got to save the one baby you have. You got to get away. You got to save yourself, girl. That's the energy I'm picking up from those who quickly, her mom and those who quickly got Malaya out of there. And the Stump card, one of the key meanings is you need to extract yourself. It says something ending prematurely, resistance may indicate the need to extract yourself from a certain situation. Wow. Wow. The Umbrella, to protect oneself. Lastly, let me show you the card below all that. Emotional blackmail. We have conflicted and drained. Somebody in their dynamic between mom and stepdad or dad or whatever, baby daddy, I don't know. One or both conflicted and drained. I don't know what envy is yet. Sabotage is interesting, and aggression. But emotional blackmail. Let's talk a little bit about emotional blackmail. What is emotional blackmail? Emotional blackmail, according to Google and Wikipedia, is a punishment that can take place in romantic relationships. For instance, in an unpleasant divorce, the emotional blackmailer might warn that if their spouse files for divorce, they would retain the financial assets or never allow them to interact with the children. Here's the thing. Daniel doesn't have leverage. He has that home, but Malaya has a home with her mama and family over at the reserve. She has Meadow. And I heard that she collect. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm assuming she does because she's a stay-at-home mom. So how else would she be able to survive? But she collects certain monies from the government. So she has that. There is no leverage. But what he does have that has worked for him, allegedly, is emotional blackmail. And that's what the tone and tenor of his interviews with the news and with these messages allegedly are. Now, if this isn't him, like I said, I'll take this video down. So then I dug a little deeper. How to deal with emotional blackmail. Identify the pattern. Recognize when someone is using manipulation and specific tactics they use. Establish boundaries. Clearly communicate what you are and are not willing to do. Focus on your own needs. Avoid getting caught up in the blackmailer's emotional game. Cut off contact if necessary. Sometimes the best course of action is to limit or completely end contact with the blackmailer. Seek support. Talk to friends, family, or a therapist about the situation. And lastly, don't feel obligated to give in to their demands. Your well-being and personal integrity are important. And what have we seen that's happened? You know, some people are like, there would be nothing that would keep me away from searching. And I feel the same way. Yes, I do. However, there is one thing, your personal safety, allegedly, right? The one child that is still in your care, right? So then I was just like, wow, you know, I feel like we just witnessed him doing that, because if she's gone, she's changed her status to single, it's clear she has sent a message to him to leave her alone. And he's not doing that. Not with that interview, and not with those kind of messages that he was sending. Those were digs, and those were, I don't know, if I felt like I was being emotionally blackmailed, and I'm not Malaya. One more slide on emotional blackmail. It says, here are some common signs of emotional blackmail. Threats. The blackmailer may threaten to withdraw love, support, or even their presence, making the victim feel like they need to comply to maintain the relationship or avoid further harm. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping stands out. Now, it doesn't sound like she's doing this to him. It feels like this is what's happening from him towards her, allegedly. Guilt tripping. The blackmailer might guilt trip the victim by focusing on their perceived shortcomings or by suggesting they're being selfish or ungrateful. Manipulative language. They may use phrases like, if you don't do this, or if you leave, you'll regret it, creating a sense of fear and obligation. Control. Okay. The blackmailer often seeks to exert control over the victim's decisions, actions, and even their emotions, making them feel like they need to do what the blackmailer wants. Blaming and criticism. They may constantly criticize or blame the victim for their own actions or failures, making them feel inadequate and unworthy. And you did it on YouTube in front of not just the Canadian audience, the world audience, allegedly, if this is you, Daniel. Unreasonable demands. Exploitation of needs. Silence. The blackmailer may use silence as a weapon, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and anxiety. Fog, F-O-G, fear, obligation, and guilt. The victim may experience intense feelings of fear, obligation, or guilt, leading them to comply with the blackmailer's demands. Lack of boundaries. The blackmailer may not respect the victim's boundaries or personal space, intruding on their privacy, and autonomy. There's a reason why no one else is out there, quote unquote, looking. And I'm not convinced that he's out there looking, as he says. There's a reason, because law enforcement has conveyed there's really, at this point, this is not just a recovery. There is something else going on here. And she's having to grieve in private and probably collect herself. And if she did something, I'll eat my words on this, but something isn't right in their dynamic. Two things could be true at the same time. The kids could disappear. It has nothing to do with them. It could be an abduction of some sort or whatever, wandering off, whatever. And they also had serious issues on that plot of land. Remember, we also had the Pinocchio card. Shows a man with the whole Pinocchio story that you keep telling lies and the nose grows longer and longer, right? We have that picture, and that always stood out to me as well, because the cards that led that reading, that portion of the reading, was Anger in Chains and Masquerade. And at the very end of that section of cards is that Pinocchio card. I just want to point out to you all that Google is your friend. I just Googled, can law enforcement, let me actually see if I can find how I worded because I had it worded where I want to share how I Googled this. I said, is it customary for law enforcement to tell a suspect they passed or failed a polygraph in Canada? And you could search for in your respective country, right? And this is what came up. In Canada, law enforcement may not always tell a suspect if they passed or failed a polygraph test. While polygraph results are inadmissible in court, police may still use the test as a tool during interrogation, potentially falsely indicating a suspect failed the test to encourage cooperation, according to legal professionals. Polygraph results are inadmissible in court, okay, either for or against the suspect, it says. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled that polygraph evidence is inadmissible. It then goes on to say police may use polygraphs as a tool for interrogation. They told him, according to Daniel in the news interviews, it's time to keep quiet. Oh, I bet you they said, you did fine, you did great. That's what the examiners probably said. And law enforcement, was like, that's, you did fine, you did great. Probably didn't say you passed or failed or if it's inconclusive, or if they told him that, they are well within their rights to tell him that and totally be well within their rights to lie to him. Bear that in mind. And he never said he passed, people. He said it was favorable. Words matter. Pay attention. Don't be gullible. It says, police may not always be truthful about results. Police may falsely tell a suspect they have failed a polygraph to get them to cooperate or confess. And the last bullet point that I cannot stress enough, suspects should consult with a lawyer. Now, he's not a suspect. Nobody says he's a suspect or even a person of interest. But it would behoove him, before he's going around volunteering to do a questionable test, such as a polygraph test, to consult with an attorney. And if he can't consult with an attorney because he doesn't have the funds, that's okay. Just don't get a polygraph. And I would never judge somebody ever for choosing to not take one, ever. So, yeah, folks. Quite a lot, a lot hasn't happened in terms of finding the kids, for sure. But over the past week or so, interesting things have come about, all because of Daniel. Hey, Daniel is keeping the kids' names in the news. I'll give him that. He is doing that. But is it for the right reasons? Whenever he has the opportunity to go on the news, he's not saying, hey, you all, I'm out here looking. It really would be helpful if you all could come with me, or someone could help me out with this or that. Nope. That's not what's happening. It's all about proving his innocence, or how hard it's been. It's a given it's been hard. I know it. I know it has. But there's something very, again, I hate to reuse this word, performative, about everything he's been doing and saying. All right, friends, there you have it. We have covered all that's gone on in the last week or so, and we've covered quite a bit, and I've shared some of my thoughts, opinions, and I'm curious to hear what you all have to say about this. This has been quite an emotional, just roller coaster, because every time the searchers go out, we hope that they come back with news that they found the kids, and it's just not happening. So I send love to everyone who is in the families, in the community, who are affected by the kids' disappearance. I send you all love, because this is, I know, just devastating. Cannot emphasize that enough. And I want to hear from you on all that has gone on, from the polygraph to the April 28th point of reference that law enforcement wants folks to check on their dash cams on, to all of this business surrounding the interview. What are your thoughts and feelings about that interview? Where are you sitting at now as it relates to this case, and what you think, what you intuitively feel happened? I will be recording a couple of videos related to the case and doing readings. So stay tuned for that. Do me a favor on your way out, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss those upcoming readings on this case and other cases that I will and have covered under Mystery Mystic Mondays and Mystery Mystic Musings. You all take very good care of yourselves. Take good care of your loved ones. Take good care of your mental health and well-being. Take breaks when you need to from these cases because it can be quite heavy. All right, friends. Bye for now.